Welcome back, and in this video you can see what we're talking about. It's the Heritage Audio Baby RAM, and this is a monitor switcher. At its surface, it allows you to control the volume of your reference monitors or your near-field monitors. You connect this directly up to one or two sets of monitors, and I got this in to allow it to be a lot easier for me to switch different audio interfaces and mixers in and out in my setup. And it's worked great for that. And it is a pretty large and heavy unit. You can see it's about 5.5 inches wide. And then if we look at that in centimeters, about 14, a little less than 14 inches in this dimension. And in this dimension, we have, I would say 19.5 centimeters. And then in inches, it's 7.5. And if I look at the height of it, it's like 3.25 inches high, or a little over 8, almost 8.5 centimeters high. So it is, pretty big, and it is substantial. I would say it weighs a couple of pounds. I really love it. I like it much better than I even expected. The controls are right here. They're big, they're colorful, they've got a cool vintage look. According to Heritage, this is modeled after European console center sections, like the vintage ones, and it's got this great big knob on here. It also includes 24 steps, and inside of this unit is a ganged 24-step attenuator. And they claim that this gives you perfect stereo imaging because the resistance across all of those is tuned for each step. These steps are calibrated in 3 dB increments. So if you have it set all the way here, then you're basically getting the full signal through the unit, and then you can step down in 3 dB increments. If you push the dim button, you're getting a 20 dB cut on the dim switch, which is really helpful. So if you have your thing set up here where your normal volume is here, you can hit dim, and then it will just be quieter. I use that all the time, but the mute button front and center, this is great. Because I'm using so many different devices, particularly mixers, and their mute buttons could be in any location. Their main volume buttons are in different locations. And even hooking up and rehooking the wires, this allows me to have consistent control of the key things I need. Like if I'm going into a recording mode, or if I'm going into a playback mode and I'm not sure if the volume is going to be hot, then I will mute this ahead of time. If I'm going to start recording at my desk, I don't want the monitors playing, I can just hit this. I can also reference in mono, which I frequently do for video work. Sometimes there's something on the left or the right side that need to be merged together, but I want to monitor what I've done. There's a mono button right here. Just a perfect, simple setup. This does not need any power because it is fully passive. It does allow you to connect 2 sets of outputs. So you can have output 1 and output 2. Most of the time right now I've got it set to a single set of monitors, but you have that option. And you have the same thing on the input. You can select between 2 completely different rigs, or you can have some sort of a playback setup and then your main setup here on the white button. I just really like the simplicity of this. And on the back, we've got a similar setup that is pretty obvious. You can set up left and right on your inputs. These are balanced 1/4 inch. They claim to have gold-plated jacks on the inside. And there's a button here to operate it between balanced and unbalanced mode. I suppose you could connect something other than speakers to this if you just wanted to switch between some other sources and have an attenuator on it. Anyway, I run it in the balanced mode. You just plug your output of your audio interface in here, and you plug your speakers in here left and right. And it couldn't be a lot simpler than that. Heavy, solid metal construction. The internal routing of this is passive, so your signal goes in to the attenuator, and then these controls follow the attenuator, and this is based on the diagram in the manual. It goes from here to the mute switch or to the mono and the dim. All of the attenuation for both channels is handled here, left and right, which is why this thing is a ganged 4-level attenuator. These things run about $200. You can definitely get them less if you happen to find a used one. And this is part of a line of these controllers that includes the Ram 1000, that includes more features, going up to the 2 and the 5000, which give you a full set of professional additional features for routing and monitoring in your studio. So I've got the Heritage Audio Baby Ram back here on the bench, and we're going to really explore this device in a little bit more depth, because this kind of device, being 100% passive, is going to need quite an extensive precision resistor network, because it is inserting precision resistors in line, and for each step it needs to do left and right stereo. But in addition to that, because it supports balanced, it also needs to put the resistance in each of the balanced lines. And so that would be 4 resistors or some sort of ladder network per step. And that would be per input. And since we have 2 inputs, this is going to have a 4-ganged, multi-position switch and extensive amount of ladder networks in there. I'm projecting that those will be on chips on a circuit board inside here. So I'm going to attempt to take it apart, and I have not done this yet, but I have figured out that a 2mm Allen wrench, at first I thought these were Torx screws in here, but it's 2mm Allen wrenches. There's 6 of these screws. There is another ground lug screw on the back, and I'm not sure if I need to remove that. That's probably just screwed into the chassis. I will not remove that yet. I'm not sure if I need to remove this big knob. It might stay attached. I believe that it'll all stay attached. So I'm not going to take that off until I've got these screws out. And then we're going to use the meter to determine exactly what resistors are being used and get an idea of the precision of this network. There are other kinds of things like this. This nano patch I used for a long time. You could still buy these under different names. If you look on Amazon, you'll find very similar products. This company that made this, SM Pro Audio, I believe. SM Pro Audio was purchased by JBL at one point, and then JBL released a JBL branded version of this. This has just a single ganged resistor on it like this and a mute switch. And I found this was extremely useful and used it for a similar function for a long time until I realized that it was affecting the stereo image. This also has stereo in and stereo out. These are way, way less expensive, and I felt like it was affecting the sound. So I took it out and just didn't use one for a couple of years until I found this. But this type of controller I've found to be very, very helpful in the studio. It allows me to have consistent controls, even if I'm using different mixers, different audio interfaces. So you can see that there's 2 more screws here on the bottom. These jacks seem to have nuts that hold them in. You've got the balanced and unbalanced button there. And then this is the screw I'm talking about. That is a ground lug screw. And as I'm projected, I can completely pull this apart, and we'll set that aside. Really nice construction, really good quality. And sure enough, we've got 2 circuit boards in here. We have a 4-ganged switch. There is a ribbon cable with some silicone on here, some glue that's connecting the jack plate, which has the button, and indeed this is a ground lug screw right here that you could wire out to earth ground if you needed to. And then all of these come across to this board. And the way that this seems to be implemented is that the resistor network is right on each of these circuit boards on this ganged switch. I guess nothing you can see, it turns, but it's turning inside there. And you've got surface mounted resistors between each of those positions. And so they're forming a ladder that if you had it turned all the way to this way, it will bypass that entirely. And then it's not entirely clear to me exactly how the dim function appears to be implemented by some resistors that are right on the circuit board in there. should be 4 of them. I see 3 of them. The other one must be on the other side of that switch. And then how is the mono button implemented? I see some resistors down in there. They're down in here related to the creating a passive mixer for the mono button. And there you have it. A really good professional quality construction. This looks like it should be a very long lasting device. And for what it is, it's pretty expensive, but this company makes a lot of these kinds of controllers. So they've really invested in figuring out how to make these and how to make them work in a professional environment. In the next segment, I'll do a little bit of testing just to make sure that there is a good precision on these resistors from one side to the next. All right, before I start this test, I'm going to show you the test setup. So I have the meter connected so that it's connecting between the input and the output. This red wire is the tip of the TRS connectors. This is the input side here, and this is the output side here, and I'm connecting through here into the Fluke meter. So now at the highest setting, there's 18K. When I mute it, so with dim off, mono off, now I've got 1 ohm of resistance. At the most open position, we're still getting resistance through it, but it is 1.0 ohms. Now if we go one step down, now we're seeing a 472.4 ohm load across there. So I'm going to switch over to the white wires and see if it's the same on the other side. And we've got 472.3 ohms. And I'm going to just pick a intermediate setting. I'm going to set it on -30. That's giving me 1.955K resistance in line. And I'm going to switch this to the red one, 1.955K. So that's really balanced. Let's just check at a much lower level. We'll check now at -48. Now we've got a 2.013K resistance, and I'm switching back to white. Tip is the red, ring is the white, and now we've got 2.013. So you could see that the precision is actually quite good on this, and that at the lowest level here of attenuation, it's going to be putting in basically a 2K resistance in line. And at the most open level, it's going to be about 1 ohm. Now there it shows 1.5 ohms. If I hit mono, because of the way the summing works, is actually putting 2K in line. And mute makes it infinite. And then dim, we're seeing 18 kilo ohms. That's on the one side. And then on the red side, we're seeing 18 kilo ohms. So that's what this is doing. It's going to do the same thing for input 1 and for input 2. Right now there's nothing connected, so input 2 will show as an open. And so that's what's happening inside the Heritage Audio Baby RAM. Pretty impressed. I will continue to use this device and hope that this is helpful in your evaluation or decision about whether to use something like this. So what do I think of this device? Well, I bought this with my own money to serve a certain need, which is the ability to have a big attenuator for my monitors and to have the ability to mute, dim, and go to mono. And even though right now I don't have 2 monitors hooked up, sometimes I do if I'm testing monitors, or at times I have had other kinds of monitors hooked up at the same time. It gives me the ability to expand into that. Being a fully passive device, it's really, really simple to hook this up and use. And because it's fully passive, it does nothing to the signal. Well, in theory, it could form a low pass filter between the resistance that it's inserting in line and the capacitance of the speaker cables. I'm talking about the line level cables that you use to connect your speakers with or active monitors to your audio interface. So there could be some capacitive there. So one of the things to keep in mind is don't have very long cables or any unnecessary length on those cables. If you keep those cables short, and based on what I'm looking at here, any low pass filtering would be well above the range of human hearing when using this device. Now, if you had extremely lengthy cables and capacitance started to build up, you have some other problems anyway, but it would then potentially start to get into the audible range at these settings. When you have the highest amount of resistance in here, you might get more of an effect. When you have it up here, it would be more bright. But for common applications and for the convenience of having this, for the most part, that's going to be well above human hearing and the high fidelity audio range that we work with. Heritage Audio obviously knows what they're doing with these kinds of monitor controllers like this, and it really shows in the design. It's nice and weighty, so it doesn't move around on the desk. The wires on the back aren't going to weight or make it rock. It's also super large, so you can easily grab this even if you're not looking at it. And it gives you a consistent way of operating as you apply it to different kinds of equipment. So I have these functions in the same place, regardless of what mixer or audio interface I have hooked up. So for me, it's not just recommended, but it's an essential piece of gear for me at this point. I hope you enjoyed this review. If you like this kind of video, tell me what you think about this shorter format of just quickly showing you a product, talking through the features, and then keeping it nice and simple. I like to cover the technical details as much as possible so you can make an informed decision. Or a lot of the times, if you already have some of these kinds of units, so you can learn something about what you already have. Consider subscribing, and I'll leave a link to another video you might be interested in right here at the end. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in another one very soon.